Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 6, 2022, around 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including the remnants of Tropical Storm Alex and a look at what might be upcoming. Could more tropical troubles be coming down the pipeline shortly? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Jumping straight into everything, taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this evening, we notice that we have the remnant circulation now of what was once Tropical Storm Alex, now moving away from Bermuda. Tropical storm watches and warnings have been discontinued for the island, and this will now be moving harmlessly away out into the high seas of the North Atlantic. We can tell that it's a remnant circulation. This has become very elongated. It seems like there's a clear transition for a front up in this region, some type of boundary here. So there is some type of occlusion or something going on here. So this is definitely now becoming a post-tropical cyclone. And then we turn our attention now down to the Eastern Pacific and Atlantic side of the Southwestern Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. This area of shower and thunderstorm activity right here is expected to maybe kickstart some genesis chances for tropical cyclones over the next several days here, and that might spill its way into this region of the world here over the next 5 to 10 days. Now, officially, this is the tropical weather outlook from yesterday, but it still stands for the Atlantic Basin today. There is no disturbances that are expected to develop over the next 5 days, so at least for the next 5 days, nothing is to be expected at this time. However, coming down the pipeline here, if we take a look at the GFS forecast, this is the 12Z run, valid for 2 p.m. this afternoon. Again, here's that remnant circulation now of Tropical Storm Alex, and that is beginning to fade away. You can tell that in the model forecast here, this is quickly transitioning. Where there's obviously a clear frontal transition in here. So this is becoming a mid-latitude cyclone at this point. Now, over the next several days, we definitely have to watch in the Eastern Pacific first. You'll notice what actually ends up happening here on the GFS forecast. We kind of get a collision of vorticity in this region. We have westerly winds here, easterly winds coming from here, and this kind of leads to an overall increased amount of vorticity. This could be another round of what is called a Central American gyre. Basically, a big area of converging winds and lower pressure that generally originates closer to Central America. Very well known. That is what generated Agatha, and also that is what generated Tropical Storm Alex. So if we move forward, we can actually see here in the model, this is within 5 days, we get some type of tropical disturbance to nest up pretty close to Central America and the coastline there. Now, this could be convective feedback, meaning that the GFS forecast in particular could be overdoing the amount of convection, the amount of thunderstorms in that region, and overdoing the amount of spin in the atmosphere as a result of that. So this could be one of those same biases that we have well been talking about with the GFS. Needless to say, though, it is at least somewhat plausible that we could have another repeat of Agatha and Alex. You can see here in the model, we get this broad area of low pressure that ends up developing within about 5 days or so, or just beyond the 5-day period. And 2 areas of low pressure, one out here in the East Pacific, one out here near Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula. And on the GFS forecast, that tries to consolidate into a tropical storm that is focused down here really in the Bay of Campeche. Now, if we take a look here at the 500 heights here, this is basically looking at the strength of the ridges and the trophies, in the troughs really in the tropical Atlantic and across the world, really. In this sector here, we're really focused on the North Atlantic, but all of this red here, this is really just big ridges of high pressure. And we kind of notice that it's pretty dominant, especially this ridge that is extending over the southern portion of the United States, and that could very well squash development into the far southern portions here of the Bay of Campeche, and that might definitely not allow for anything to start moving northward. In fact, that is what happens on the European. If we look here at the Euro 12Z forecast, we can notice kind of somewhat of the same thing, that a lot of development is squashed here. We actually notice that there is a tropical storm that forms here on the model that is closer to the Baja California Peninsula and also coastal Mexico. But anything over here in the Atlantic Basin does get suppressed. And again, the reason for that is those 500 heights. And you can see here the difference between the GFS here is that there's a more consistent ridge that is out here on the Euro. It's stronger, and there's not really enough energy to get anything to start breaking that ridge down and moving northward. So it very well could look like that anything would be squashed to the far southern reaches, really, of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, real quickly here, if we actually look at the Gulf sea surface temperatures here, so these are temperatures at the very skin of the water, we notice that the water temperatures are actually quite warm. There's a warm eddy that we've been talking about for several months. This consists of about 28 to 29 degrees Celsius waters. So we're really looking here at about 82 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit here. So that's definitely some nice toasty water. And of course, in the Bay of Campeche over here, we also have those 28, 29 Celsius waters. So that's definitely supportive for tropical cyclones. But if we look here at the ensemble forecast here, now this is basically looking at all the possible locations of areas of low pressure according to like 56 different members here of the European or something to that effect. I don't know how many members are in here, but it's in the 50s. And we notice that if we look here on the Euro, this is by day 5, we notice that there is a large clustering of possible areas of low pressure, maybe tropical storms, maybe depressions, or maybe just tropical disturbances that are in this vicinity. Now, they all seem to be clustered on the eastern Pacific side, and that seems to be the general consensus and idea. Now, we eventually start getting, this is way out in time, we start getting by mid-month some activity that starts to appear here in the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. Now, the GFS ensembles here, they're definitely a bit different. We notice by the day 5 period, there's certainly a larger clustering of possible areas of low pressure, possible tropical storms in this region. Now, this is not again saying that there will be tropical development within the 5-day period, but it certainly looks like we could have our next tropical system, maybe a tropical storm forming soon. That seems to be kind of the general idea. And then on the GFS, there's also clustering down here closer to Central America on the Atlantic side, and that eventually develops into what seems to be an idea for a storm to develop somewhere closer to Jamaica within the 150-hour period. The problem I will use, the caution that I will throw out there, though, is this could be all convectively contaminated, convective feedback problems. So basically, an enhanced area of thunderstorms on the model causes enhanced spin in the atmosphere, and that spin tries to go on to develop a tropical, cyclone. That's kind of the convective feedback bias that the GFS has. So this could be one of those problems. Nonetheless, though, it is a little bit of a signal here that we are starting to see within the models within about the next about 6 to 7 days. So we could definitely start to see some activity start to pick up within a relatively quick order. So we'll be closely monitoring this, but I definitely think we'll have to monitor one of these regions, probably the Eastern Pacific Basin, honestly, at least as we close within time. All right, so that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.